Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, I'm speaking with Derek Lichtenwalner. He is a Power Apps developer who's been working with the technology for about 2 years and has had an interesting career journey along the way. As Derek explains, he had been working on his company's production line previously. He works at water bottler BlueTritan Brands. The chance to work on rolling out some off-the-shelf software for production led to the opportunity to build his own Power Apps. And as you'll hear, Derek has built on that opportunity to really reshape his own career plans. Derek tells me about his work history, building up his expertise with Power Apps, the production apps he works on, and what he's looking forward to, both with the technology and his work. All right, well, hi, Derek. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today to talk.
Thank you for having me.
I thought we could maybe start in the present. I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to hear about your experiences and where you've come from and where you think your work is going. But can you tell me what you do today and maybe some of the work that you do right now?
Sure. Today I work on making the lives of factory floor employees at my company a little bit more simple. It's a nice way to help alleviate some of the extra tasks they have to do.
All right. And well, that maybe does lead into a little bit of your history, because you, as I understand, you started in a different kind of role, but at the same company, right? In the area of what they produce.
Correct. I started on the production line.
Uh-huh. What was that journey then? So you started on the production line, you got involved in the applications that the company uses to run production?
Yes. So I was able to work on, dive deeper into what they were currently using and understand what could make the business a little bit faster.
Uh-huh. How did Power Platform get into the picture?
My boss at the time had actually come across, we were working with a third-party contractor to give us a communication type platform. And we wanted to find a way that, maybe it would work better for us if we had something else, as well as, something cheaper.
Okay, so you had an application. It was doing some of what you wanted, but you felt that maybe you could find another option that was better option, more flexibility, that kind of thing?
Yes. Yeah, something that if we needed to, adjust something, it wasn't going through a whole product team to have those developments made.
Yeah. Was that something that you wanted to do initially? Were you interested in running applications or being involved in their rollout?
Initially, yes. I wanted to work with development, and I wasn't too sure how rollout would go. But I found myself being sucked in more and more and enjoying that more and more as well.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to see the business differently, or what was the experience like?
Yeah, so it helped me to really understand, the needs of more individuals and more roles in my business than just my background specifically, than just being the production operator. I was able to see from the maintenance side of things, from leadership side of things, the reporting side of things.
When you look at that kind of system and, like you said, the different jobs that are involved, what's your perspective on how to, improve an application or evaluate how good it is? Do you tend to think of things in terms of the roles and the work that the people are doing, or do you look at it from, sort of like the management level and the business performance side? Do you have a starting perspective on that kind of thing?
Most of the time, I tend to side with the people doing the hands-on tasks a little bit more, make their life easier, because then they're going to tend to do better quality work going forward. And then from there, I zone in on the reporting side of things. What is management going to do with the information we're capturing?
Excellent. What has been your experience getting ramped up on Power Platform? How much time have you spent with Power Apps at this point? What was the experience like getting to become familiar with it and using it as you started?
As I started, we first went through I think we had a 3 or 4 day hackathon at my factory, and from there it just really took off. I was able to develop the first app within 2 weeks from there, and since then that app has become a little bit bigger and able to handle a little bit more, and from there it's just been that was almost 2.5 years ago, and I found myself and my skills just really taking off.
Yeah, hackathon usually, you come out of it with a bunch of ideas, right? And some of them are better, and some of them are, not. Some of them are better and worse in terms of like turning into something real, right? I mean, it's all good in terms of the exercise of it. Do you remember how many things survived coming out of that in terms of like apps that got developed?
We developed 2 applications within that hackathon, and both of those I brought into that first application that I made that has now added several different modules. We've got 5 different modules within that application now, and 2 of those came from the hackathon.
That's a pretty good outcome, I would say.
Yes, I'm very happy with it.
And I mean, how many people are we talking about that were actually participating, and how many others have stayed with it in addition to you?
I believe we had about 20 people in that hackathon, and there's maybe about 2 or 3 others I know that are able to develop some things and have, but we're just in a very lean business, so it's not always easy for people to find that time.
Had you done any application development before that hackathon and dealing with Power Apps?
No development, just setting up our instance with that third-party platform that we were using.
Yeah, I ask because it's just always interesting where people sort of start their application development learning from. What point? Because some people started with assembler all the way up to, I guess, Power Apps is on the high end, or sort of the lower code side of things. So that's interesting. Have you developed any perspectives where you can see how you look at things versus how, I don't know, someone who codes in like a C# or a .NET, another .NET language might approach things?
Yeah, I think I'm able to approach it with a little bit more fluidity because I know the business end of things, starting from that side, and I'm able to make those changes very quickly. If somebody's able to come up and say, can we have an extra button that does this? It's just very simple for me to go in, and they can be using it within a few minutes.
Yeah, I'd love to learn a little more about what the app is that you design and support. I've read a little bit about it, but it sounds like it has a lot of facets to it. You talked about there being several modules. Can you give us some of the details of what some of the coolest parts of it are?
Sure. So it's an autonomous maintenance app. So really, it's a way for the operators to make those decisions and to not need to rely on mechanics as much throughout their TPM journey. And TPM is total performance management. And it's just a way of working that they learn, they build their skill set, and they take on more tasks. So within this autonomous maintenance app, it covers things like tagging, where that's identifying abnormalities on the line so we can correct them before breakdown happens. And that's tracking them throughout the line visually. We have a centerlining module, and that's just ensuring that the certain adjustment points on the machine are set to what they should be and verifying that. There's a module for CILs, which stands for Clean, Inspect, and Lubricate. So that's a few minutes of planned downtime that the line takes, shiftly or daily or even weekly, to ensure that we go down and it allows us to look a little bit further into any abnormalities that might arise on that line, as well as give us a chance just to do a little bit of minor cleaning or lubricating to help ensure that equipment doesn't fail before our next planned maintenance time.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
What are some of the ways that it does this? I mean, I can imagine it could be anything as simple as, checklists and, simple sort of text or, sort of simple interaction to really complex stuff. Are there any interesting technologies at play there?
Right now, the most technical thing that I have in there is actually just identifying who the user is and, what permissions they have based on their level within the organization through an Azure Active Directory connector, and that way it is able to filter out a lot of those unneeded items that operator or mechanic does not need to see. It's not pertinent for them to see a different factory than the one they're working in.
Yeah, I can imagine streamlining is really important in some of these scenarios or the places where these people are working.
Yes, absolutely. Being able to take away a few extra clicks really goes a long way.
Is speed something that Power Apps has been able to, speed in terms of like performance and how performant the app is itself? Is that something that you've been happy with? Because it seems like something that I never thought of Power Apps as something where when you need things to be very reactive and keep up with you in your job, but that seems like it would be a real demand for this situation.
Yes, absolutely. I have been happy with the speed of Power Apps and the applications that I've built. It's really helped me to, kind of understand the developer side of things, better ways to lay out tables and make references and the connections and everything there. It's helped me to understand and really gain a better perspective for what developers do.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself a more or less a developer at this point in your business?
I do, yes. There's not a whole lot of people within my organization that work with Power Apps. So it's mainly a few of us that build them and kind of manage the layout between environments and things like that, and who has access and security roles. There's a small team that really manages that.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was wondering about. If are there other people who can sort of share the responsibility with you, or is it all like we're depending on Derek's got to be here today because we need that new field, or we're changing this one step in our process? I don't know. Is there that dependence still, or do you have a team you can rely on?
There is a team I can rely on, though the dependency is still there to some extent because I'm lockstep with that AM application, whereas the next person might not be.
Right. Have you looked into any, I don't know, any of the sort of governance or sort of team development kind of tools that go along with Power Apps development? I know that's something that Microsoft has been working pretty aggressively on, and granted, it seems to be for larger teams that are developing lots of apps at a larger scale. But I don't know, has any of that touched you?
Not so much at this point, just because of where we're at in our journey. It's more getting that buy-in from our, leadership team, our managers, all the way down to the factory floor employees. Getting that buy-in first and foremost, and then, showing them what else can be done with it.
Have you had any feedback from your coworkers?
Yes. So it's very nice starting out on the floor and then moving into a role like this, because I've developed many friendships where they can be very honest with things. If I add something into the application that doesn't make sense or is just not working, they don't hold any punches.
Yeah, and they know you, unlike maybe a partner or a consultant who might develop it and then move on. They know you're gonna be there to hear about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's. I think it's ultimately a really good thing, but it's a little bit more, pressure or stress or whatever. But it's realistically, I think it probably.
I think it's really good because they at that time they feel like their voices are heard more so than, when we have an outside developer come in and create something for us.
Sure. And this is the app we've been talking about. Is that pretty much like a Canvas app in terms of Power Apps parlance? It's not based on like or is it based on a model-based approach that kind of leans on the D365 sort of architecture?
No, this is a Canvas application. Most of the applications I develop are Canvas applications.
Have you gotten into sort of the Power Apps community that's been building and really thriving over the last few years?
Yes, that group has been fantastic. If I have any questions, I'm able to go right to them. And likewise, sharing that information to save us all a bunch of time in the long run is fantastic.
One thing I was thinking about is I imagine you interacting with other people in that community from other companies, other employers, that you must be coming across people who kind of have very different job history than you. A lot of, traditional developers who came from that side of things as opposed to production side of things.
Yes, I definitely find a lot more developers coming to Power Apps, at least in some of my journeys through the Power Platform community, than I do like I have been, where I come from the production floor.
How's it been for, I guess, your work life or your career, or your work goals? Has this been that worked out the way you planned, or has it been sort of an unexpected turn?
It was definitely an unexpected turn. Prior to this, I was veering towards the leadership direction within my organization, and I had a stint as a leader there, and I was pulled from that to kind of work on these applications more. And I found myself since then, exploring JavaScript, exploring HTML and CSS even, and some Python. And I have been so interested in that is definitely the path I see my career taking from here.
Interesting. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking of in terms of sort of the job opportunity or like the kind of the vision in the company was, like you mentioned earlier, was the analytics side of things and sort of delivering things to management that give them an indication of performance or being able to evaluate, how the workers actually get their work done in sort of a more realistic way or a more, more accurate way. Has that played into it?
Yes, absolutely. It's allowed me to work more with the data and analytics team within my organization and understand more of what they do, the business intelligence side of things, developing Power BI reports even. Mm-hmm. It's been very, very enlightening.
Yeah. Have there been any interesting findings that we thought the business worked one way or we thought this was the right way to do things, and now we have this evidence in front of us that shows us something unexpected? Are there any cases like that you could mention?
I have not come across any like that at this time.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, what are you excited for looking ahead here in terms of the technology or in terms of the kind of work you're doing?
Looking forward, I really would like to work more with some of the connectors. I've worked on building a few for the organization and just seeing the things that we're able to connect to and streamline it, take out the middleman within something, automate something. That's really where I'd like to dive next.
Yeah, you started off more or less replacing commercial off-the-shelf software with something, essentially custom, but built rapidly with Power Apps. Do you see more opportunities for replacement of technology inside the organization?
Yes, there's definitely some replacement opportunities within the business, as well as some things that we can just, we'll say, bridge the gaps that we have.
Yeah. What about automation? That's always a fine line to me where, like Microsoft loves to brag about how much it can be automated. And, there's sort of there's positives and negatives. And then, when it comes to automation, there's always fear from workers too, that maybe things will be too automated or will automate their core elements of their job. Have you had any of that sort of tension or that balance to find in any of the things that you've, worked on in terms of what people do in their jobs?
Not yet, just because of where we're at right now within our maturity for digital enhancements. We're very little at this point so far as the amount of automation we have in the process. So anything right now is seen as good, and there's not a whole lot of watch-outs at this point.
Great. I mean, anything else that's really been useful that you've learned in this journey so far that you're telling others about when you do kind of get involved with the Power Apps community? Do you see new people coming in, and do you advise them at all?
Yes. Anytime I see somebody just questioning things, asking simple questions, whatever it might be, I straight away give them, the answer, help them along the way, encourage them, and sometimes come alongside and see if there's anything I can do to help them, speed up the development of their application.
Great. Well, Derek, thanks so much for chatting with me. It's been great to hear about your experiences here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jason.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Derek for joining me. If you have any feedback or want to get in touch, you can reach me by email jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter for all of our updates. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World signing off.